The dealership was full of potential buyers, the air thick with excitement and the hum of engines revving in the showroom. But behind the polished windows and the perfectly aligned vehicles, something was brewing beneath the surface, a secret that could ruin everything. Evan Marshall, CEO of Summit Motors, stood just outside the showroom, his hands clenched in his pockets. He wasn't here for the flashy cars or the sales targets. Today, he would go undercover. But the question was, how many of his employees were really living up to the company's values? And what kind of truth would he uncover when he pretended to be just another average customer? Summit Motors had always been a beacon of success in the city, but no company is perfect. No leader is blind. And for Evan Marshall, today would reveal whether or not the trust his business had worked so hard to build could withstand the pressure. Evan stepped inside, blending in with the crowd. His face was hidden behind a cap and sunglasses, but his eyes were alert, scanning the sales floor for the employees who interacted with customers the most. He saw them, the eager salespeople, the managers, and then there was James, the young, overzealous salesman, smiling too brightly, shaking hands too enthusiastically. He was too good to be true. Evan walked toward James, taking a deep breath as he readied himself for the role he was about to play. He approached the counter, his footsteps deliberate but casual. James didn't notice him at first. He was too busy talking to another customer. But when their eyes met, James smiled, flashing a set of perfect teeth. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today?" Evan smiled back, nodding like any other customer. He was ready for this moment. "I'm looking for something practical, but I need it to have some style. A car that's good on the road but doesn't scream, 'I'm rich.'" James's eyes lit up. He nodded rapidly, his attention now fully on Evan. He was hungry for a sale, eager to prove himself. "We've got just the car for you," James said, his tone rehearsed but smooth. "Follow me. I'll show you one of our top models. You'll love it." James led Evan to a sleek sedan parked in the showroom, its silver body gleaming under the lights. It looked like a solid choice, stylish but not too flashy. "This one's perfect for you," James continued. "It has leather seats, a top-tier stereo system, and the latest safety features. It's a steal at $40,000, but for today we can offer you a special deal, $35,000. Evan stood still, his mind racing. He had been in this business long enough to know that this car wasn't even close to being worth that much. The actual price was $30,000. Something was off. Evan nodded, trying to keep his face neutral. "Interesting. I thought the price was around $30,000 for this model." James's eyes flickered briefly before the smile returned, more polished than ever. "Oh no, sir, that's the old price. The new model comes with a bunch of extra features, and trust me, you won't find a better deal anywhere else." Evan felt the knot tighten in his stomach. Something wasn't right. James was lying. He wasn't just trying to sell a car, he was manipulating the truth. The pressure to close the deal was more than apparent. James leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Look, I understand if you're a little hesitant, but for $35,000, you're getting a top-of-the-line vehicle, and that price won't last long. This is your chance." Evan's pulse quickened. The lies were piling up. He wasn't just a businessman anymore. He was a detective in his own company, uncovering a truth that had been hidden for far too long. "Can I take a look at the numbers?" Evan asked, his voice calm, though his mind was racing. James's smile barely faltered, but there was a hint of nervousness behind his eyes. "Absolutely, sir. Let me get the finance team on this and run some quick calculations." As James stepped away, Evan's instincts kicked in. The words "top of the line" and "special deal" echoed in his mind. This wasn't just about one car, one sale. This was a pattern he couldn't ignore. But how far did it go? Was James the only one who had been misleading customers? Or was there a deeper problem at Summit Motors? Evan quickly texted his assistant to get a full report on James's sales over the last 6 months. Everything had to be checked. Everything had to be verified. James returned with the finance manager, trying to hide his anxiety. "The numbers are ready, sir. This deal will have you driving off today," he said, presenting the figures as though he were unveiling a masterpiece. Evan took the paperwork, but didn't look at it immediately. Instead, he leaned in and spoke in a calm, quiet tone. "I already know the price of this car, James. And I know you've been inflating it for the sake of a sale." The room grew tense. The finance manager looked at James, whose face had turned pale. "That's not true," James stammered, his voice cracking. "I've been doing my job. I just want to make sure you get the best deal." Evan's eyes locked on James's. The words had hit their mark. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate lie. "You're lying to customers. You're inflating prices to make a quick commission. And I've been watching you do it," Evan said, his voice unwavering. James's eyes widened, his defense crumbling in front of him. I didn't think anyone would find out." Evan stood up, his jaw clenched. "You've misled every single person who walked through that door. And for what? A paycheck." The dealership had been his pride, but now it was his responsibility to correct the lies. James's actions were a betrayal of everything Summit Motors stood for. The rest of the staff gathered around, overhearing the confrontation. James's future was sealed in that moment. He was no longer just a salesperson. He was a cautionary tale. Evan's voice cut through the tension. "James, I trusted you to do things the right way. I trusted you to uphold the values of this company. But I can't have someone like you working here. You're fired." James stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. You can't." "I can, and I will," Evan replied. "You've done enough damage here. Now you'll face the consequences." As James was escorted out, the employees were left to absorb the shock. They knew something had changed. A new kind of leadership was in charge. Evan turned to the remaining team, his gaze steady. "Let this be a warning. Honesty matters. Integrity matters. If you can't stand by those values, you won't have a place here." In the following weeks, the dealership began to transform. New policies were implemented, and transparency became the cornerstone of Summit Motors. The lies had been rooted out, and Evan made sure the employees understood. Integrity wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. Sales numbers dropped at first, but trust soared. Customers knew they were getting the truth, and that made all the difference. Evan Marshall wasn't just the CEO anymore. He was the face of the company's rebirth. A company that no longer hid behind inflated prices and dishonest sales tactics. Summit Motors became a name people could trust, not because of the cars they sold, but because of the truth they lived by. These life lessons serve as a powerful reminder that integrity, transparency, and accountability are essential not just in business, but in all aspects of life. The decisions we make today shape the legacy we leave behind, and the principles we stand by influence the world around us.